ready? No, I really want to get on that translator assembly diagnostic.
Tom's face is the same face I make when Amy says she doesn't want to write computer code with me.
Can't you see what's gonna happen? We are the only humans out here, Harry. People are gonna start pairing off.
Tom raises an excellent point, but somehow over the next 7 years, only one kid is born, and that was to someone who was pregnant before she left DS9.
I got a girl back home. So what? I got 5.
Tom was at a penal colony back at home. I'm not convinced he had 5 girls back at home.
I told you, I need to run a translator diagnostic.
And you need to run a self-diagnostic. Look, they come as a pair. It's a double date or no date.
I'm going to need some twins to fact check this statement for me, but my gut says, twin or not, no one wants a sibling tagging along with them on a date, unless they really don't want to be on a date with that person in the first place. Not that I speak from personal experience or anything. I'm not going to say that a certain target demographic is responsible for the color of her pajamas and the placement of her blanket, but I think we all know it's true.
Mr. Paris, can you identify the source of the wave?
I love how Neelix is just chilling in the background off balance while everyone else is fine.
Scanners are picking up a debris cloud in the red dwarf system we're approaching.
It consists of differentially charged polaric ions, Captain.
I'm really going to try to not stop every time bad science comes up, but lines like this hurt me just a little bit on the inside, as it represents an unwillingness to even try to think of a valid scientific reason.
Differentially charged. That would suggest a massive detonation.
I think the shockwave itself was an indication of a massive explosion, don't you?
Entering the system, Captain. Heading 010 Mark 4.
Kes, what are you doing here?
I don't think the pot should be calling the kettle black. Janeway gives Kes a perplexed look as she walks by, but I've always wondered why anyone and everyone could go to the bridge just by saying bridge. I've been to far less critical places that didn't even allow you up to the receptionist area without having to scan in. Well, I won't be needing this anymore. This landing crew represents 90% of the senior staff.
Everything organic has basically been obliterated.
Except for those vines. Those vines are okay.
It recalls the Chaltalk 4 incident.
A Romulan research colony was nearly destroyed during a testing of one of these devices. It led to the Polaric Testban Treaty of 2268.
I've never understood this mindset. There was an accident, and it was deemed so dangerous all research on it was banned, and enemy nations actually agreed to it? I would sooner believe it was turned into a weapon and research continued.
Polaric ion concentrations are so high.
How high are they?
I can't get an accurate reading.
Sorry, B'Elanna, from the huge pause you just took, I thought we were about to do a stand-up routine here.
Guy walks into the doctor's office. The doctor tells him you need an operation. The guy says, I want a second opinion. The doctor says, okay, you're ugly too, but boom.
I saw them burn.
Kes is briefly turned into Counselor Troy for this episode.
I'm sensing a powerful mind.
I'm really glad they course correct this. Troy is my least favorite character in all of Star Trek, bar none. And that includes New Trek.
You felt the shockwave in your sleep. Just your imagination. Strange coincidence.
Early Neelix was unbearably condescending to and controlling of Kes. What's worse is while Neelix was often wrong, I don't think the writers saw the overall character trait as a bad one. I've said this before, but the sooner they got away from Neelix and Kes' romantic storylines, the better their characters were. Janeway is looking at her tricorder like it just told her something fascinating about the type of concrete used to make that pillar. They used 19% coarse aggregates instead of 21%? They were truly playing with fire on this planet.
Look, this may be some kind of timepiece.
That's a huge leap to make there, Tom. That thing is the size of a dragon radar. I'd sooner believe it was a carbon monoxide detector with a display showing the current detected levels in parts per million. Tom's right, of course, though.
They're as close to me as...
Hey look, those are the same street lamps we saw on TF4. You know, the planet from the TNG episode High Ground. They just put a lampshade on top. Janeway and Paris were standing right next to each other, but now they're several feet apart.
You've been reading too many of those Darkstorm tales, young fellow. There's no such thing as demons.
Atheists.
Run along now. Have a confection bar and calm down.
I don't think this security guard has any kids. You never have them eat sugar, then expect them to calm down.
Come in on the Continental transport?
This morning.
This is a little more formal than most. You know how it is when you travel.
Tom and Janeway are rolling natural 20s on their bluff checks right now.
What do these numbers stand for?
Rotations, intervals, fractions. Same as any timepiece.
Alright, let's look at this timepiece. Fractions are clearly seconds. Rotations are days, alright. But what would intervals be? Either hours or minutes are left out. Without minutes, there's no point to tracking seconds, but without hours, minutes is nebulous as a measurement. Except, are rotations days? When Tom looks at it earlier, we know it stops at 401, but now it's showing 371. Or is the number 1 actually part of the decoration between rotation and intervals? This timepiece is too large, and is ultimately useless.
This is the time of the explosion, where the fracture opens.
Okay, well, that answers my last question. The timepiece does stop at 401, so there are more than 30 rotations per day, and I'm not sure I have any idea what they mean by rotations anymore.
Shock waves from most explosions dissipate into the future.
Shockwaves from most explosions dissipate into the future. Yes, this is how time works. That's like saying echoes grow more silent into the future.
What? Is something wrong?
Yes, terribly wrong. Your brain is not on file.
I love that this is the doctor's most pressing concern during a physical.
Please advise the highest ranking officer who is not missing to see me at his earliest convenience.
Oh, so you're assuming the next highest ranking person is going to be a guy? I see how it is. I do like how this scene shows how isolated the doctor was at the beginning, and how reliant he was on others to provide him with even the most basic levels of information.
She's the healthiest member of her species I've ever seen. You have a lovely brain. It will make a fine addition to our files.
Oh, Doctor, you always knew how to sweet talk the ladies. Cool fact, this wall is the same wall that was hiding the secret lab in Star Trek Generations.
Don't even think about it, Tom. The Prime Directive is clear. We cannot allow our presence to alter this planet's natural course of events.
Even if the natural course of events is annihilation?
Yeah.
This is the correct usage of the Prime Directive. Too bad they may have already hopelessly contaminated it by selling their uniforms. But what harm could something so minor cause?
Where'd you get this?
Hey, wait a minute. That's the book. They left it. The other ship, the Horizon.
This is the contamination, Captain. Astonishing.
Also, this is such a great conversation, and one that has come up before in the TNG episodes Pen Pal and Homeward. It's a tenet I don't think I agree with when it comes to natural disasters, but can condone when it comes to bad choices the race makes. Like, there's a big difference with standing by while an asteroid crashes into the planet because it's the Prime Directive, you can't interfere, and doing a covert ops mission to stop them from detonating a nuclear device. I think this episode would fall more into that later category.
Where's the child?
We ate him.
I give you the face of a woman who has just realized this is the maturity level of the man I'm going to have salamander babies with someday. I hate to say this, but far too often in real life, hired security gets far too aggressive against people who are protesting on public grounds outside private property. Though shooting in the air seems a bit excessive, even for the most overcompensating rent-a-cop. Whoa! Watch the hands there, man. I'm joking. If you look how quickly he moves his hand, you can tell that this was an accident, and he's clearly embarrassed about it. Not everyone is a handsy jerk, and it's nice to see a guy trying to be respectful.
At intense levels, it can open a subspace fracture.
So B'Elanna and Harry just broke the Polaric Test Ban Treaty, right? I mean, it sure is lucky that despite having no data to reference on how polaric energy might react, they were able to build this device with no issues. Also, this prop was initially part of a larger field generator prop from the TNG episode Birthright Part 1.
How do we prevent one of us from getting trapped in a fracture?
All of us will be wearing one of these. It puts out an antipolaric field. It should repel the fractures when they get within 3 meters.
For someone that had all the research on it, Van, they sure do know a lot about using it and repelling it.
I have to go with you.
There's nothing down there you want to see, Cass.
I've already seen it. I have to go.
This argument works. Looks like someone spilled the strawberry jelly while making PB&Js. The way she's wincing, I wonder if Janeway is rethinking making Tom the ship's nurse.
We're from Kalto Province.
I've never seen a Carlton with your color hair.
That's racist.
We have safety monitors to measure polaric energy.
They can make a detection device that small, but their watches need a satchel to be carried with. One of the fun things I think this episode did right is showing how the actions in both timelines affected each other. The badges weren't initially detected because Janeway and Tom weren't in the past yet, from their perspective. But once they're in the past, the two timelines interact with one another as if time was progressing at the same rate for both of them. It's a fun take on time travel when done right.
We know the companies are afraid of us. We know they've increased security at all their plants. But it will not be enough to stop us.
I'll have more to say about this at the end, but regardless of how worthy a cause is, I have no sympathy for eco-terror. Ooh, this video is about to get extremely unfriendly for YouTube. Tell you what, instead of the T word, I'm going to call it puppies. So I'll have more to say about this at the end, but regardless of how worthy a cause is, I have no sympathy for eco-puppies.
It is my real name. Captain Catherine Janeway of the Federation starship Voyager.
I love Tom's reaction here. Just this, are you kidding me? After the speech you gave me on the Prime Directive, you're spilling the beans now?
They've been in this room. I know it.
Hey look, Tuvok is still a lieutenant commander. Now, I can't speak for other eco-puppy cells, but clearly this cell believes that they should be posh and not just a low-key place to not attract attention.
Interstellar ships, fractures in time. Do you honestly expect us to believe all this?
Yeah, he has a point. I certainly wouldn't blindly believe someone who claimed they were from the future. I haven't tried to look this up yet, but I guarantee you they are at a water treatment plant of some sort. I'd recognize that equipment anywhere. Yep, all these outdoor scenes were shot at the Tillman Water Reclamation Plant.
Let's say we never came, and their plans didn't change. Wouldn't the accident simply have occurred next week instead of today?
This scene really messes with my sense of perspective for some reason. I just feel like Janeway and Paris are constantly getting closer to the guardrails, but they're not.
If it were me, I would have tried to get there.
The issue is whether Captain Janeway would go there. Not you, Commander.
Tuvok is dropping some cold, hard truths in this episode. Amazingly, he's both right and completely incorrect at the same time. Also, fun time travel head scratcher moment. If Chakotay had listened to Tuvok, then they wouldn't cause the explosion, then Janeway wouldn't have headed to the flashpoint in the first place.
Think before you say no. Turla has a weapon trained on the boy.
I am a hostage. These men are here to break into the plant.
Janeway clearly agrees with Spock that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. Even if that one is a boy who is about to get shot if you don't work with the eco-puppies. And this guard has no reason to leave the protection of his little shack.
Their lives are on your conscience, Janeway!
False. Regardless of what Janeway did, you chose to force your way in because you had a theory that something bad might happen. Honestly, I'm with Tom on this one. With these guys roaming around, this planet was doomed. This cat prop. Yeah, this cat prop also comes from the TNG episode High Ground. It's the cat that was placed on the warp core of the Enterprise. This clock counts up to 9 fractions and then resets to 0 without anything else on the clock changing. I'm not convinced this species knows how to count the passage of time. This is the first of several times that we're going to see some version of Janeway die.
What did you tell them about me? How you broke the single pilot speed record at the Academy.
I never broke any record.
And who are they going to check it with?
Tom is a great wingman.
Familiar. Not exactly familiar. Considerably less than familiar, actually.
I love that Neelix says the exact same thing with the same mannerisms as he did when it was an emergency situation. Can Harry really go off duty like this without anyone taking over at his station? The way the camera suddenly pans over to Tuvok after this makes me think the answer is no, and that Tuvok is making a mark in both of their permanent records that they did this.
And maintain present heading, Commander. Warp 6.
At Warp 6, it would take Voyager 178 years to travel 70,000 light years. They need to be averaging at least Warp 8 to make it home in 70 years. So, time and again. I thought it was a good episode. I like the interaction Tom and Janeway got that allowed their relationship to develop somewhat. It was a little odd to have 2 time travel episodes back to back like that, but of the 2, I like this one better. You might think this was supposed to be some kind of anti-nuclear power episode, but it really wasn't. The premise around it was, what if you found yourself in Dresden 24 hours before the cats dropped? I think that's a fascinating concept, but one that was ultimately overshadowed by the examination of the Prime Directive. Executive producer Michael Pyler stated that they deliberately made this a Janeway-centric episode, stating that they felt like they had made a mistake in DS9 by not quickly establishing the position of the captain as an anchor for the show. I disagree with this mindset. Trek is supposed to be an ensemble show. It's different from shows like Knight Rider or Columbo. Whenever it focuses extensively on a single character, the show languishes. While it didn't hurt Voyager or DS9 too much, this mindset definitely carried over into Discovery, where it has had a clear negative impact on the series. If I had to change anything about this episode, it would be the inclusion of the kid Latika. His inclusion didn't really add anything to the story and just slowed down scenes that could have been spent exploring other issues. That and I'd get rid of the eco-puppies. In real life, eco-puppies only serve to damage the very thing they're trying to protect. Back in 2016, some eco-puppies tried to damage the Keystone Pipeline by shutting some valves. Thankfully, it was caught quickly and no oil was going through the line at the time, but if it hadn't been caught, the impact to the environment would have been massive. Damage that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. We see this happening in the TNG episode Force of Nature. A scientist blows up her ship to prove that warp fields damage the very fabric of space, and as a result, this area of space, which was already unusual, is completely ruined, and Starfleet enacts a ban on any form of warp travel above warp 6. But all that was really proven is that exploding a ship in a dangerous area of space has bad consequences, and in no way proved that warp travel was dangerous. Ugh. In Trek or in real life, eco-puppies just pisses me off. It damages the environment, and usually the people in charge are the only people who actually benefit from the actions taken. Shout out to my supporters on Subscribestar and Patreon, which according to my notes is John DeMarco, and joining him is the Salty Trekker. Thank you, Salty Trekker. If you like this and want to see more, you can join John and the Salty Trekker by searching for Life with Matthew on Patreon or Subscribestar, or just click on the links in the description of the video. Be sure to subscribe for more, and until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.